You know, they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
Eu dei nothing. Eu dei nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, eu dei nothing. Eu dei fucking nothing. Now what is eu dei nothing?
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nate Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube, obviously podcast form, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc. Smash the like button, share the show, subscribe to listening live, call in 323-870-4051, press 1 to get in the queue. If you are listening via podcast, drop that 5-star review. It does help with exposure. I'm Matt, the hipster hunter. Obviously here to break down UFC on ESPN +1, the start of a new era. Definitely going to be interesting. Definitely going to be an interesting sort of weekend just for the sport overall, because it is that sort of venture onto the ESPN platform, even though it's not fully on the ESPN like actual channel. The prelims, some of the prelims are. But the main event itself, obviously, TJ Dillashaw versus Henry Cejudo for champ status. That will be on ESPN Plus, like I said, to start off a new TV partnership with the UFC and ESPN. We're here to preview and break down the card and the fights. I'm not joined by Mr. Robbie Hearns himself. I'm not. I apologize. He's busy, and plus, he thinks he's too proper. He being a boxing purist and such, that he's too proper for MMA show, which is sad. It's sad. But anyways, let's get to it. Like I said, TJ Dillashaw versus Henry Cejudo. I think it is, now that we have the weigh-ins done, we now have both guys weighing in. Henry Cejudo obviously having some trouble weighing in the past at 125. This is TJ Dillashaw's first cut to 125 because he is the 135-pound champion. A cut that he made from 154 pounds in 12 weeks, got to now 120, I think it was 4.6. And looked like god-awful hell. Like, he looked like Skeletor, man. Like, it was a little bit haunting, to be honest, to see TJ Dillashaw weigh in and just see his weight cut overall. When we talk about fighters looking sunken in, looking dehydrated, TJ Dillashaw would now be the prime example we go to on what that looks like, how you can see it on a person's face. And when I guarantee when we see him fight tomorrow night in Brooklyn, he's going to be around 145 pounds, 150 pounds, and he's going to look completely different. He's going to look a healthy person. We don't have that right now. We haven't seen a healthy TJ Dillashaw for some time, and I think that's really warped a lot of our perceptions on this fight. Not that Cejudo doesn't have a chance. Cejudo obviously beating Demetrius Johnson via very close, controversial decision. And overall, a fight that this whole fight has so much more ramifications than just the technical matchup and the stylistic matchup we have here. The fate of the flyweight division in the UFC could perhaps and most likely hangs on the balance of this fight. We have the storyline of basically the babyface heel turn that TJ Dillashaw is on now. He went not too long ago being one of the spokesperson for the MMAAA, whatever that was, which was a attempted fighter union or fighter association within the UFC. Him, George St. Pierre, Brian Rebney, I believe a few others. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I think like Cain Velasquez was there, something like that. Some heavy hitters, and TJ was there. He was one of those names. He was talking a lot and going to interviews a lot about how that could be a legacy in a sense. And Don Cerrone came out and all that, and obviously that fell apart. And now we have TJ Dillashaw literally going out there in the media and saying, I am going to kill a division. I'm going to take money and food out of you and your family's mouth for an entire division. And including within that is his teammate and friend, Joseph Benavidez, who was visibly hurt and upset at TJ Dillashaw's words this entire fight week. So a lot of storylines on top of it. Again, Henry Cejudo is now sort of the savior, the champion of the MMA hardcores. He is the guy that if he beats TJ Dillashaw, he could perhaps save an entire division of the sport. And on top of that, we haven't even got to the actual fight itself and how these fighters and their techniques and their skills are actually going to play in when it comes to a fight time. But on a very big scope in a lot of different layers, just this fight is massive. This card is massive. It's going to have a lot of ramifications. It's also the start of the ESPN era, like I've said, for the UFC. And it's one that is diametrically different than the beginning of the Fox era. Not so much in terms of card depth or value. That UFC Fox card wasn't exactly the most stacked card. I have them both up. The main event, obviously, for that UFC Fox card was sort of 7 years ago. Sorry, 8 years ago now, or going to be 8 years by November this year. Main event, Junior Dos Santos versus Cain Velasquez. Co-main event, Benson Henderson versus Clay Guida. Dustin Poirier versus Pablo Garza. Ricardo Lamas versus Cub Swanson. DeMarcus Johnson versus Clay Harvison. Darian Nuniyama versus Kid Namioto. Bruce Lee Ward versus Cole Escovedo. Mike Pierce versus Paul Bradley. Sort of that level of a card. And then we have, obviously, tonight. And again, that was on Big Fox. Now we have tomorrow night on ESPN Plus, a streaming service. Henry Cejudo versus TJ Dillashaw. Greg Hardy versus Alan Crowder, which we'll slightly get to. Gregor Gillespie versus Yancy Medeiros. Joseph Benavidez versus Dustin Ortiz. Paige Van Zandt versus Rachel Ostovich. Glover Teixeira versus Carl Robinson. And then in the prelims, obviously, Don Cerrone, Alexander Hernandez, Joan Caldwell versus Ariana Lepsky. And even on ESPN, the early prelims on ESPN Plus, Dennis Bermudez versus Tay Edwards. Bilal Muhammad versus Jeff Neal. Fantastic fight. But there is a difference in those two fights and how they're packaged and basically the platform that they're being presented. We are now 8 years into the future in a sense, if you're transporting us from the UFC on Fox era, and we're now in the streaming era. Like, we're firmly in that. And this feels like an indictment of that. This feels like, not indictment of that, it feels like a confirmation that, yeah, I know that we are in this sort of the last grasp of the TV era, but the streaming era is here. Like a major sporting entity, multi-billion-dollar company like the UFC, and their joint deal with with ESPN, and their rollout is through the streaming deal. It's a different era, and I think that's something to make note of on top of the card itself. But let's get to the fight. Cejudo versus Dillashaw itself, the technical matchup between them. One that I've been going back and forth from, to be honest, because I think Cejudo has a real chance in this fight, not only due to the enormous weight cut of TJ Dillashaw, but on top of that, I think Cejudo has some specific tools that could really give Dillashaw some issues. We all know Dillashaw game by now, I would say. If you don't, I'll sort of give the quick rundown. He's a guy that can switch hit, constantly moving, constantly getting off the center line, constantly feinting and setting up angles and shots. A true master of range and distance, a true pound-for-pound talent. You know, I'm pretty sure that T.J. Dillashaw, like, technique for technique, is far and away the superior fighter than Henry Cejudo, and perhaps maybe most of the world when it comes to MMA. Like, he may be only behind 2 or 3 guys. You know, obviously, drastically, his stock has risen since the Cody Garbrandt sort of saga. I think we are looking less harsh on the Dominic Cruz loss because that was a very controversial loss. And he has only gotten better with time. His domination of Sun Salz, who has been one of the perennial most disrespected guys to never get a title shot in the UFC. He has built a resume. On top of that, his skill sort of speaks for itself. Now, how do you beat that? A guy that's constantly setting up angles, constantly switching, constantly giving you new information that you have to download and then figure out and compute, while he is constantly figuring you out and constantly setting you up. How do you defeat that? Well, really impeccable timing. You have to have some diversity to your game, and Cejudo has those in spades. Cejudo's boxing ability is fantastic. His right hand, his counter right hand. Sorry, somebody in the chat saying when you're starting. We have started. We have started. Come on. Refresh the page. But anyways, Cejudo's excellent boxing ability, his combination work, his ability to time that right hand when people are trying to, you know, dart in and out is quite talented. You know, it's definitely, in terms of MMA ability, it's high level. And on top of that, he has a gold medal in the Olympics for freestyle wrestling, which he has translated quite well into MMA. Now, T.J. Dillashaw, in his own right, is a fantastic grappler, fantastic wrestler, a guy that is extremely hard to take down. If you do take him down, you can't keep him there. So what I see happening potentially in this matchup is Dillashaw working that volume. He's going to be working his kicks. He's going to be going to the body, going to the legs consistently with his kicks, working his boxing, working off the jab, and constantly just setting up angles and working off volume, like I've said, combinations, etc. And while Cejudo, if I were his coach, if I were to sit him down and try a game plan for a guy like Dillashaw, is I would actually try to let him in. Let Dillashaw overcommit. Let Dillashaw get too confident. Because when he does get too confident, he no longer is on the outside working at step angles. He's now in the mid-range. He's now on the inside and doing the same work. And because he is constantly switching stances, constantly getting off the center line, his hands aren't always in the best place for defensive work, to parry shots, to flex shots, to block shots. That's how Garbrandt has caught him. That's how other guys have caught him, is because of that flaw. That Dillashaw, when he does get overconfident, when he does do too much, he can forget his range at times, and somebody could catch him. Cejudo can't do that. And when he does, he needs to transition to the ground, get takedowns, and score points. Potentially steal rounds. Quest saying, when does the fight start? It starts tomorrow. The exact time, I don't know. I don't have it in my notes right here. But I would assume usual time, like main card starting at 7 or 6 p.m. Pacific time. 10 or 9 p.m. Eastern time. Wherever you are, you do the math. ESPN preliminary card as well. So the prelims are on ESPN. Most of them are. Some of them are. And the rest of the card on ESPN Plus. Anyways, digressing. So Cejudo, if he can catch Dillashaw coming in and out, if he can catch Dillashaw making mistakes, if he can catch, again, Dillashaw overextending himself, he could steal rounds and could catch Dillashaw, who can be hurt, who has shown to be knocked out, who has shown, again, to have not necessarily a questionable chin, but a chin that can definitely be tagged. In this weight cut, on top of that, to sort of tag back into the weight cut story, that weight cut's going to diminish the chin and diminish his durability. It just will. Even if he can gain back the 20, 30 pounds, that sort of damage you put on your body cannot just be, dealt with in 24 hours. And even if they have it all dialed down to science, there's equations they're using, it's still cutting 30 pounds of your weight when you only have 8% body fat. That's an insane amount of weight. But again, I'm probably picking Dillashaw. I know I'm going against my better judgment, the red flags that are really in the air, saying, hey, Dillashaw is, he is not damaged goods, because that's totally wrong, but he is he's compromised in a lot of ways just due to the weight cut. And also, Cejudo has a style to, I think, potentially give him some issues. Cejudo can totally have a Tyron Woodley-like style where he stays close to the fence because he's not worried about getting taken down, and he wants his opponent to overcommit. He wants his opponent to make mistakes and then capitalize on them and fire off when he can. And that could steal rounds. It might be a very close fight. I kind of foresee that. I think this fight's going to be a 5-round decision. It's going to be close, 48-47. I think Dillashaw's going to slightly edge it due to his activity. But I don't think Cejudo's going to be really able to actually finish Dillashaw. I think he'll be able to maybe hurt him at times. He'll be able to take him down at times, but I don't think he'll be able to fully capitalize on it the way I think he could. I just see Dillashaw being able to get out of it. Dillashaw has a way of getting out of issues and getting out of trouble as of late. And plus, he is by far the superior striker of the two. And I think at range, he should be able to pick apart Henry Cejudo. It's all about if Dillashaw gets stuck in the mid-range, gets stuck on the inside. The fight will be highly even at that point. But if Dillashaw can stay at range and just, pick him apart, not really worry about basically the counters and the significantly lower reach of Cejudo, it might end up being dominant, but I don't see that. I see it being more competitive. I see it being a little more close. I see it being at times a little bit more suspenseful, a little more of a standoff fight, so to speak. But digressing from that fight, again, Dillashaw by decision, close decision. Greg Hardy in the co-main event. Obviously, a lot has been talked about with Rachel Ostovich, who was recently abused, recently attacked by her husband, boyfriend? I forget. Sorry. And obviously, Greg Hardy having his own domestic violence history that is quite horrific in a lot of ways. And the fact that they're on this card together is the opening of the ESPN deal. How tone deaf is that? It's extremely tone deaf. And that's basically all I'm going to say about Greg Hardy's fight. He is like 2-0. I could give two shits about him. And he has done a very good job of being media trained and evading a lot of the backlash of him being on the UFC to begin with, and two, on this card with Rachel Ostovich, which seems extremely tone deaf. Yeah, shout out to Alan Crowder. Good luck. Gregor Gillespie versus Yancy Medeiros. This is a fight that I'm really intrigued by because Gregor Gillespie, great top wrestler, highly active. He's definitely one of those guys where if you want to show a casual fan what a really fun, exciting grappler looks like, Gregor Gillespie is one of those guys. He is constantly working, constantly doing ground and pound, constantly fishing for submissions, constantly exciting on the ground. On top of that, his boxing game is evolving. Now, Yancy Medeiros is by far a better fighter than him, far more experienced. I think Yancy Medeiros should win this one, mainly due to, I don't know if Gregor Gillespie can be able to keep him down for any significant length of time. And on top of that, Medeiros is far and away the better striker of the two. Joseph Benavidez versus Dustin Ortiz. I think Benavidez should win in this rematch. He already beat Dustin Ortiz. He's by far the better striker, better wrestler, better grappler. There's literally no category that Dustin Ortiz is better than Joseph Benavidez, who has a win over the current champ, Henry Cejudo. So I feel like that's one of the easiest fights to call, even though it has two, long-standing names in the division. Paige Van Zandt versus Rachel Ostovich, like I previously said. Fantastic fight, I'll be honest, and in terms of just marketability of two very beautiful women. Paige Van Zandt, I think, is I don't know the stats, I don't have them on me, but in terms of work rate, she's one of the most highly active fighters in the cage. The amount of strikes she puts out, the amount of takedowns she puts out. She is, when she gets rolling, she's a hard tsunami to stop in that way. She may not be technically excellent. She may not be an expert in any one aspect of fighting, but great dirty boxing, great fundamental wrestling and jiu-jitsu ability. And again, her athleticism and work rate is just unmatched, really, in that sort of range in the rankings. And Rachel Ostovich, no discredit to her, but she has never beat anyone of the level of Paige Van Zandt, who has a win over people like Felice Herring. I just think we have a situation here where before the domestic violence story, it was, hey, let's go put the two most, most beautiful and sought-after women in that division fighting each other on the first ESPN card. And I see why they did that. But Rachel Ostovich, I think from a technical standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, I don't see her really competing with Paige Van Zandt. She has a very low work rate. I don't see her being able to match any of the skills that Paige Van Zandt has. I don't think she's a better boxer. I don't think she's a better kickboxer. I don't think she's a better grappler. There's nothing she matches or is better at than Paige Van Zandt. This feels like it's going to be a potentially very one-sided fight, and I could see Paige Van Zandt getting a late either submission or TKO on the ground. I really don't see Rachel Ostovich winning this, unfortunately. Glover Teixeira versus Carl Roberson. Carl Roberson coming in late for Ian Chutaleba, I believe is his name. Carl Roberson, I think he's I want to say he was a Contender Series guy. I forget. Glover Teixeira, though, I am going to pick him, even though he is a far and away towards the end of his career. He is definitely far past his prime. But he is, from my understanding, from what I've seen from Carl Roberson, better boxer, better wrestler, better submission skills. Clearly should be that. Preliminary card on ESPN. Regular ESPN, Don Cerrone versus Alexander Hernandez. Cerrone, this is going to be a tough fight for Cerrone because Hernandez is a 25, 26-year-old all-action, traditional boxer, wrestler in that mold. Great power in his right hand. Fantastic sort of forward aggression ability. Fantastic boxing. Decent, adequate boxing, definitely. His knockout Beneil Dariush, even though it is Beneil Dariush, who is chinny, was impressive. And his domination of Olivier Aubin-Mercier on the ground really showed that his wrestling is top-notch. Now, can he put that all together to fight a guy that does have great striking ability, does have really good counter-wrestling, does have really good submission skills like Don Cerrone? Even though Don Cerrone is far and away also past his prime, I don't know. This has been a tough fight to pick. I'm picking Don Cerrone. Even with the weight cut back to 155, I think he should win this one. It's all about if Hernandez can jump on Cerrone early. If he can and actually be efficient at it, he might get Cerrone out of there early. If not, if this fight goes in the second or third round, I see Cerrone really winning those rounds and be able to pick apart Hernandez on the feet, being able to counter his wrestling and contend with him wherever he wants to be. But a fantastic fight, definitely, on paper and both what I think will happen in the ring or in the cage. Joanne Calderwood versus Ariana Lipski. Ariana Lipski, obviously very famous recently for being the woman MMA fighter that beat up her mugger in Brazil, and that kind of made headline news everywhere. She's fighting Joanne Calderwood, who's been by far and away one of one of the most tenured female flyweight fighters, or I should say strawweight fighters, now moving up to flyweight. Ariane Lipski, this is her UFC debut, been on a tear in KSW. I'm picking Ariane Lipski for several reasons. One, I can never trust Joanne Calderwood, unfortunately, in these situations where if she wins, she could get a title shot, because she always fails at that level. Even though Ariane Lipski has, by far and away, not the experience of Joanne Calderwood, I think she's on a run more so than Calderwood. And from my tape study of Lipski, she should be able to match her in both in striking and in grappling, and actually be able to potentially beat up Calderwood, who at times can be a little bit ineffective, a little bit inactive, to be honest. The other fight I really want to talk about is Belal Muhammad versus Jeff Neal. I love this fight. This fight, even though it's buried on the undercard on ESPN+, this fight has all action and quick knockout written all over it. Like, this fight's going to be a 4-minute and 30-second knockout that is going to be insane. Jeff Neal, fantastic boxer, great timing, great combinations. Belal Muhammad has also an all-action guy. I can't wait to see this fight. Jeff Neal by KO, 4 minutes and 30 seconds is my pick. That's really it for the show in terms of breaking down predictions. I see Santiago's on the line. Santiago, press 1 if you want to actually call in and give your picks. I know you want to talk about it on the other show, and I told you, hey, wait for the actual MMA show. So Santiago, press 1 if you do. Otherwise, I will head out of here. Again, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. But before I do, I will say this, because Rob keeps reminding me and I keep forgetting because I'm trash. We have hit, ladies and gentlemen, over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Yes. 1,000. I think we're like 1,009 now. Thank you. Let it play. Yes. Obviously, thank you to everyone listening, everyone that has supported, shared the show, liked the show, commented, whatever it has been to help support it. Go to Patreon or our Patreons. Everyone that has helped support the show to get it to this point. It's been basically a year of really just hard grinding for this channel. I think we put out basically, at least if you average it out, probably a show a day. Going on a year, 12 months. I mean, that kind of work rate isn't really seen in most podcasts. So again, hit the like button, share the show, subscribe. We did it. And
I want smoke.
Always want the smoke with anyone out there. So like I said, Santiago, I think, does not want to press 1. It's okay, Santi. We're gonna head out of here. Like I said, go to patreon.com/MixedCommentRadio. Help support the show in any financial way, because that is greatly appreciated. That's how we support and keep the lights on, how we go to events, how we, pay for equipment, software, whatever it is to get you guys the best content out there. Anyways, I'm Matt Thibs Hunter. I'm Matt Hunter, MCR. Like I said, hit the like button, share the show, subscribe. Listen on podcast form, drop that 5-star review. And have a great day. Peace.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
That's fucking illegal.
Where is this Burger King?
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
It's bullshit.
I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, people like that get slapped. They're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Don't be mad on me.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?